Well, good morning, everyone. It is 11 a.m. We thank you for joining us for the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board video conference meeting of April 29, 2021. Really appreciate your attendance today. We have a few announcements to make regarding the video conference meeting. First, if the video conference is disconnected at any time during the meeting shall be stopped and reconvened once the audio-video connection is restored. If communications are unable to be restored within 15 minutes, items remaining for consideration will be continued at 11:45 a.m. on April 29, 2021 via video conference. Secondly, the agenda and documents are located on okc.gov. Thirdly, to speak on a certain agenda item, please call or text your request in advance of the meeting to 405-205-4195. Include your name, the agenda item number, and the reason you would like to speak. Please submit your request prior has been considered. City staff will attempt to submit requests received during the meeting to process them to the meeting chair. Finally, to speak under comments by board, staff, citizens, please call or text 405-205-4195. Please list your name, address, phone number, and the subject on which you wish to address the board. I'll now ask staff if we have a quorum for the meeting.
Yes, you do.
Thank you. Well, then we will officially call the meeting to order with the quorum present. I thank all of you for coming to this on rather short notice for this meeting. As you know, it is the result of a special meeting held on Monday of the subcommittee for the convention center. Also want to just acknowledge that members of the Citizens Advisory Board, Bob Nalen, Michael Adams, and Michael Dover, were present by video conference at that subcommittee meeting, as was I. So we have had an opportunity to hear the presentation before. So be glad for any of you to ask questions at any time. With that, we'll turn it over to item 2 for the individual consideration to David Todd. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item is recommend approval of change order number 38, project M3-C003, MAPS 3 Convention Center, 100 Mick Cornett Drive, increase of $405,372, Board 7. So this is an item that is for some ramps, pardon me, that the operator has requested that we place in the facility. So let me just start off by saying that we worked with the operator, but a different group of people. So when we first started the project, what we had was executives out of Denver and some other areas that we worked with. And then it was a while before they got current staff on board. So the current design meets ADA requirements and as we understood it at the time, met the requirements of the operator. However, when the local operators, if you will, general manager and the booking manager came on board, they made comments that they thought there should be ramps that would take you from what technically is called the 3rd floor up to the 4th floor. So if you remember in tours that you've had or if you've attended events there's a set of stairs that are from a floor there by the art piece that goes up to the ballroom, and it's only about 4 feet. But technically we call it the 3rd and the 4th floor. And on the elevator, it shows up as the 3rd and 4th floor. There is an elevator on each side of the ballroom that is able to go from the 3rd floor to the 4th floor on both sides. the comment was made that if there was an inordinate amount of handicapped, challenged people, and it's not just wheelchairs, it could be people on walkers, it could be somebody who's had a foot injury, and I think everybody's seen the little knee scooters, for lack of a better term that I would call it. Something like that, they would have to use that elevator, and it could be somewhat crowded, and also remembering that the elevator serves the first floor and the second floor also. So if there's a large group of people there, people would be traversing between first and second and third, whatever floors, and at the same time trying to use the elevator to get from the third to the fourth. I don't know how often that might happen, but if you're one of the people who needs to use it and it happens just once, it's probably too often for you. So I want to reiterate that this is not an oversight necessarily. It is not an error. It is a desire of the operator at the point that we are. And the question at the subcommittee was brought up, well, why now? Well, the current team, the manager and booking manager, were brought on late because they didn't really, they being other city department that hires them, didn't see the need to bring them on quite as early as what maybe we would have had there not been a pandemic going on, and there really wasn't any booking to be done, this and that. But anyway, they came on board summer of last year. The discussion started. It took a while for us to get the architect engaged and get a design and work through all that, and then the contractor to work through it. So that's why it appears that it's very late in the game, but it took some time to get to where we are. And then also the first price that came in was $500,000, and I asked the architect and the contractor to go back and try and find some savings on those, and they were able to find some savings by maybe changing the front of the ramps to just a sheetrock gypboard instead of tile or something like that, and we moved some signs around. So those are some of the things that took place. I would like to share my screen here, and I want to give you a quick presentation of how this is, what the area we're talking about and what it's going to look like. So there's two sides, as I said, at the fourth floor. So to your right is the ballroom, and you can see the upper floor on the right and the lower floor. Right now, where those seats are, those padded seats, is where we would place that ramp. And that ramp is a lengthy ramp. So this isn't just something that we could have put on the stairs because of the slopes required for ADA. And then for every 25 feet, you got to have a flat landing. And there's all kinds of requirements, a certain width. So we couldn't just put it on the stairs and lose some of the stairs. So what we're looking at, if you can see there on the right, is a ramp that would go in the place of those seats. And that ramp would come off of the top floor with a landing and then start going down and end right about at the wall at that elevator. This ramp will have the same handrails that match the stairs that are already in there, and then the glass that is along the edge that I would call a handrail also will also be on the outside. So the handrail is in there to actually grab hold of. The glass is to match the finish throughout the rest of the facility. And there's a different view looking back from the elevator back to the stairs. You can see this area we're talking about, and that's how it would look. It will encroach a little bit into that area, but we feel like there's still adequate room to walk through. One thing I didn't point out is one of the concerns with the operator is that if somebody was in the junior ballroom, which is on the other side of where we're looking at right now, and they had to get to this spot over here, they'd have to go through two of those elevators, and that might be quite a bit. Like I said, if people are using it from floors 1 to 2 and all that, so this way they can roll up the ramp, roll across the ballroom area, and then back down this ramp. The second one is a little different as far as what we're taking out. So this white countertop here with the chairs will come out, and that's where the ramp will go. So that ramp will look like that. Again, handrail that matches the stairs and glass that matches the other rails that are around the facility. And looking back the other way, this is from the top looking down. You can see the junior ballroom in the distance. The ramp will just look like that. Another thing I want to point out is that the price we have is for, I apologize, I didn't turn my screen on. Lost my train of thought. Okay, so the price that we have is for 8 to 5 days a week, and that's what the contractor is going to work. And we have discussed that with ASM, and they are aware that there will be noise and there will be some disruptions, and also those areas will be boxed out. So the contractor will build a plywood container, so to speak, or a containment in there so that it will be safe for everybody going by. So it will be unsightly for a while, and it could be noisy for a while, and they are prepared to deal with that. They claim that as long as they know about it and they can inform people that are coming in before they rent the spaces that there could be some issues, that they're good with it. This construction also, because of lead times and limited workspace and everything, is going to go into September. So it's going to be like that all summer. So I just want full disclosure on what this means. I think I've covered all the valid points. We had all these discussions with the subcommittee on Monday. Very lengthy discussion. Ultimately, it was unanimously approved. So with that, I'll be glad to try and answer any questions.
Any questions for David? Bob and Mike, I wanted to invite you to offer any comments, particularly that you had, since you heard the longer presentation and you heard the discussion at the Convention Center Subcommittee. While you didn't participate in it, you did hear that, and I just wanted to begin by offering you three who have been through this with us the opportunity to comment if you have any comments.
Yeah, Tom, let me jump in. I listened obviously with interest to the discussion. Although the subcommittee unanimously approved the recommendation and sent it to us, it was with some reluctance on their part. To me, it is a bit unfortunate for the reasons that David explained. Find ourselves having to go back and re-engineer some of the stuff that's already done. I wish, as I guess we all do, that we had been aware of this issue ahead of time and could have dealt with it as the initial design and construction was going on, but we didn't. It is what it is, and we need to deal with it. I have to give a lot of credence to the desire of the operator to have the ramps. There was a lot of discussion about the feasibility of having people with limited mobility being able to move from the third floor to the fourth floor or back again using the elevators. And there are a lot of problems with that, even though it is just a short height, a few feet between the third and fourth floors. It's not a full floor by any means. But relying on the elevators to move people between the two floors is not very feasible, especially if you have a large group of people who are using the main ballroom and need access. Having listened to the discussion, I'm persuaded that we ought to approve it primarily, and I don't know that, I don't think David just really mentioned it now, but it was part of the discussion Monday, that we're very close to the end, if not at the end, of the work that Flintco, the contractor, and Populous, who oversaw all the architecture and engineering, they're about done with the project. And if we don't do this now, we'd have to bring somebody, either bring them back in later on after they've demobilized from this project, or we'd have to get somebody else to do the work. And both the operator and I think the subcommittee felt that there was, if we were going to do this, there was a great advantage to having Populous and Flintco do the work, because they're going to have to undo some of the work they've already done to put the ramps in and to make them look like they should and be compatible with what we have already. That and concerns about inflation. If we were to wait for a period of time, wait 6 months or a year and see if there's really this need that we perceive for the ramps, we'd be facing inflationary costs as well as the difficulty of bringing people back in to do the work. It's a toss-up. In my mind, there are certainly some negatives to putting the ramps in. I don't think they're, despite efforts to make them look the same in terms of handrails and glass and so on, I think they're a bit unsightly. Putting them in the location where we now have to put them, but there doesn't appear to be an alternative to that. So I think we're trying to make the best situation out of what we're faced with that we can. And so with some reluctance, I would favor going ahead with the resolution and approving it.
Mike Adams?
I generally agree with what Bob said. It's frustrating and disappointing this is coming up now. It seems like a reasonable request, and I would tend to approve it too. Yes, David, the one other question might be, this won't be our only cost related to this, right? Because we'll also have to extend the contract, I assume, with Populous and incur some additional fees there and things like that.
No, Populous is already, they're taken care of. Now, let me point out that there could be, as we start doing this, something that was left out. There could be a change order here or there, as there usually is, but we think that we've covered everything on it. We engaged the contractor, and he knows what's underneath those areas and what it would take to remove those things. So just being straightforward with everybody is that there could be a little thing here and there. Now, it's not going to be another $100,000 or anything like that, but there could be a little something, and I'm saying that because you asked that question. But as far as the architecture, it's taken care of.
Mike Dover, any comments?
Oh, I guess what comes to my mind after agreeing with what pretty much, of course, what Bob and Mike are saying is that the fact that, you know, the operator of the convention center, Mike Carrier, and the marketing and sales director for the convention center and the tourism over there strongly support doing this. And I think I go back to, it's not an exact quote, but it's pretty close. I know when Mike Carrier said it would be devastating if we had a convention and someone who relied on help getting around would have just a real bad experience. And as the word gets around, and that potentially could just be just pretty devastating for future conventions and marketing. So that really sold me.
I know that there are other members of the Citizens Advisory Board who didn't hear the previous presentation. Any of you have questions?
I do. I'm wondering, in the original plan, was there not any consideration for what happened if there was a fire? I can't imagine the fire marshal wouldn't have had some other access to that top floor.
There are ramps in back of house, and there are additional elevators in back of house, but that's not where you want to take your guests.
No.
So yes, there are other facilities that could have dealt with that.
Okay. Well, now's the time to do it while everything's slow. So.
And that's a good point too that we didn't mention, is that the subcommittee mentioned, well, maybe we wait a while and see if the need, that came up. I think Bob brought that up, but there's not a whole lot of events booked right now. There are some. I mean, the FFA, there's thousands of kids over there now, but in a year from now, we hope that place is booked solid all the time, and it would be a bigger inconvenience at that time. So now's the time. And also, using the same contractor is advantageous, because if any of the other stuff is damaged, then they're, would be responsible for fixing stuff. And they also really want to do this because they want to protect their finishes. They want the facility to have everything that Flintco did at their quality, so that there's not another contractor who they have to take responsibility for their maybe different kind of quality.
Any other questions from the advisory board?
Hey, Tom, this is Bob. Just one question of David. How long, once construction starts, if we approve this, first of all, when would construction start? How long will it take?
It'll go into September. Conceivably, it would start right after city council approval, which will be in a couple of weeks, assuming that you approve this and assuming that they approve it. Within a couple of weeks after that, it would start, and it's estimated to go into September.
Tom, this is Zane.
Yes, Zane.
In my opinion, this is a no-brainer. I think they've done a good job on the design. It looks aesthetically pleasing. It matches the other decor. It should have been included in the first design. If it wasn't, I can get that. Some things get overlooked. I don't understand why anybody's having problems with this. Now's the time to do it, and I support it 100%.
Anyone else? Kevin, I want to give you a chance to weigh in, as we talked about whether or not it was going to be unsightly or blend in, and you guys have designed this, and you've also approved it and signed off on it. So how's your feeling about the aesthetics that this is going to create for us?
Thank you, Tom. Yes, it looks good. We actually think once this is all done, it'll look so integrated and cohesive that had you not known what was originally there, I don't think you'll notice these things. Yes, a ramp is never as nice as steps and seating and some of the other amenities that we had in those places, but I think they're going to fit in just fine, and to a new customer that comes and sees them, they'll be convenient for them to use, and they'll be useful and look right in those spaces.
I'd just like to add to that, if it wasn't for the fact that we're just all ingrained to think that steps are the correct thing, look at it from somebody who requires to use an ADA ramp, and steps may be aesthetically unappealing to them as a ramp would. So I think it's a good design. I think you guys have done a good job. Why is it taking so long? We should go for it. I'm sorry.
Other comments? Well, I wanted to mention that I think Al and Barbara representing ASM are on this call, and I think all of us thought they did a very terrific job of explaining to us the marketing aspects that this provides for them. And, you know, from the beginning, it has been our goal to have a convention center that put us at a higher level in a competitive market that gave us a customer-friendly facility. And so in keeping with what I think has been our goal from the start, while the timing may not be good, as someone said, the timing isn't going to get any better. I mean, if we're going to do this, we ought to do it now. And I thought on Monday the operator made a good case for doing this. I just want to say, too, that the Convention Center Subcommittee has had I think, a really good working relationship with the operator. We see virtually monthly things that they see that can be enhancements. Most of those have to do with operating things rather than construction. And I think that relationship has been a good one as we've gone forward, and we are in the fortunate position of having the money to do this and to do things that are considered enhancements that were not in the original plan. And while this one is a little larger and the timing could have been better, it kind of falls generally in that category. So I think that the Convention Center Subcommittee wanted to do its due diligence. We wanted to hear what the operator had to say and to understand what was to be gained from doing this. And so we thought more conversation and more detail about it was necessary before we made a final decision and brought it on to you. So, but it does come with our unanimous recommendation to go forward with it as well. Are there other comments or suggestions or questions? Shall we approve it? Bob Nayland has moved that we approve it. It's been seconded by Zane Boatwright. We now, if you are hooked into our automated system, please cast your vote. And I think for Mr. Dover, we'll need to call the roll.
Councilwoman Nice.
Sorry.
And Councilwoman Nice.
Oh, yes. And Councilwoman Nice, I think we may need to have your vote by a roll call.
Mr. Dover, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Nice?
Aye.
The item is passed and been approved. I again want to offer my thanks to those of you who came to this special meeting after this was taken from our agenda at our monthly meeting. So we're very pleased that you were willing to take the time to do this. And that brings us then to item 3 on the agenda, which would be any comments by the board. Any additional comments? Staff, David, anybody on your staff have comments?
I appreciate the special meeting. I know everybody's time is valuable, and I appreciate the time today.
Then finally, I want to ask staff if we've had any requests from citizens to be heard on the subject.
No, sir.
We've had no request from citizens to comment on this. If there's nothing further, that completes our agenda for the day, and we'll stand adjourned. Thank you again for participating.